Hi, welcome to the Six Figure Single Mom podcast. My name is Crystal. I'm your host, also known as the Six Figure Single Mom. I am so excited because I have a special guest with me today. She spoke at my most recent brunch, the Resilient Parents Brunch, and she did an amazing job just talking about improving effective ways to communicate with your children. So her name is Vinicia White. She is the president of Gracewood. I was so amazed when she spoke. We spoke at an event over the summer, and that was when I was first introduced to her presentation. And I am telling you guys, she is amazing. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Vinicia White. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well now that we're finally in the studio.
Finally.
So I have been trying to catch up with Vinicia. I call her Vi. So we're gonna draw the
Vi
Vinicia
is
and call her
good.
Vi. I met Vi, like I said, over the summer, and I was really amazed with her presentation. As you all know, I have a 16-year-old, and communicating with her right now is a little rocky.
It's a challenge.
Some days it's good, some days I feel like I'm not making a breakthrough. But before we get into all that, and trust me, it is good. Before we get into all that, can you please introduce yourself and speak about Gracewood and what Gracewood is, and then we'll get right into the communication.
Of course. So I'm Vi White. I am the president of Gracewood. Gracewood is a transitional living facility for single mothers and their children who are facing homelessness. And so, as you know, we can house 21 families on our campus. We invite them to live with us and really just turn the corner in their lives. And one of the things we want to help them do is improve their parenting.
That is so amazing. Number one, Gracewood is such a blessing. And I will continue to say that as many times as I see you. It's such a blessing. It's something that I wish I would have known about when I first had my daughter, and when she was little, because I had her when I was getting ready to graduate from college. And what you guys do is amazing. So can you talk about a few things that you guys allow the women of Gracewood to do as they are there?
Absolutely. So, the first thing is we serve very high functioning single moms. These are women who are in school, they're working, they have a plan, they've just run into some kind of roadblock. And so, we provide no cost counseling for each one of our families. They're able to see a licensed professional counselor weekly. We provide education assistance, so we can pay for up to 10 semesters of education, full tuition and fees for our families. Also, parenting classes, money management, co parenting, how to set boundaries,
Wow.
all the things
Wow.
that are going to help them be successful after Gracewood.
Absolutely. And so I wanted Vi to kind of go through that because you guys are super invested in single moms and them improving in every area of their lives. And
Absolutely.
that's what I was so amazed by. I mean, it is such an amazing thing. When we talk about communication, like I said, when I heard you give your presentation over the summer, and I was sitting in the audience, you didn't know me, and I just said, I raised my hand and I'm like, I've been doing this communication thing all wrong. And I'm just going to be honest about that. I've been doing this communication thing all wrong, just running communication how I grew up. So, as a single mom, I always think about the fact that I had a father, right? And so I think all the time that that was his role, right, as a man to lead. And my dad was very militant. Like when he said do something, he meant do it right now.
Right.
There was no waiting period. There was no I'm fixing to, I'm getting ready to. You better be doing it right now.
Right.
So when I think about my parenting as a mom, sometimes I feel like I'm trying to play two roles. And so I think that's what also gets in the way of our communication too, because on one hand, I'm very nurturing. And then on another hand, I try to come in like a dictatorship. And then my daughter's like confused, like, who are you today? Like, which one is it going to be?
Right.
So as we talk about communication, what are some effective ways that you have like drilled into your single moms that are at Gracewood, are ways that could help, them to effectively communicate with their children?
I think it's the thing that you just said. It's the balance of nurture and structure. We struggle to find that balance. Our parents struggled to find that balance. But what we believe is that if that balance is off, then communication is not as effective as it could be. And so we know that if there's too much nurture, which we see with a lot of single moms, I'm overcompensating. I feel terrible that I'm not married to your dad, whatever that looks like. And so mom just nurtures, nurtures, nurtures,
Yeah.
and there's no structure. Then we see the exact opposite also, which is I don't want you to make the mistakes I made. I want you. So it's structure, structure, structure. And
Right.
so what we believe is finding a healthy balance between nurture and structure is what's going to lead to the best communication. And honestly, that's with everybody, with our kids, with our coworkers, with everybody.
Right, right. So when you talk about communication and having too much of something and a little bit of this, and I know that what are some ways that you can communicate with your children? I know you got into verbal as well as nonverbal communication with your children. First, let's identify what communication styles will be effective for children.
Absolutely. So the thing is, we're always communicating something to our children, even when we're not speaking, right? And
Yeah.
so my son is 10 years old. He knows if I've had a bad day without me saying, son, I had a hard day at work.
Sure.
It is me not speaking. It's me being very curt or short in my words. And so I think we just have to really recognize that we're always communicating something. And those nonverbal cues are huge with kids. And so sometimes our kids can pick up on the things we aren't saying, and that keeps them from engaging with us. It keeps them from feeling comfortable or safe to say what they need to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing that my therapist, because I have a therapist now,
Yay.
like I shared with y'all at the brunch, it's been a long year. So myself as well as my daughter, we now have therapists. And one of the things that she shares with me all the time is at the beginning, which I'm getting better at, is Crystal, stop making absolute statements. You always have your room dirty. You always talk back. She's like, because she doesn't always do those things, right? And she's like, I mean, if she does, let me know. And I'm like, well, no, she doesn't always talk back, but most of the time. And she's like, well, but you can't say always, my daughter, she also has a lot of triggers as it pertains to certain things. And so initially I would be like, you're triggered by everything, and it would be more of a frustrating thing that I would do with her instead of, and not that I was being mean, but I was saying it to say like, what are you not triggered by? And my therapist started telling me, say that then.
Right.
Just ask her, what are you not triggered by? So as it pertains to communication, does it vary like the age of the child when you talk about verbal and nonverbal cues?
Absolutely. I think so. I think for those of us with younger children, I mean, think about how often we're telling them no. No, stop, sit down, don't touch that, stop running, be still, be quiet. Those are all just different ways to say no, stop, don't do that. And so, one of the things we want to do is try to reframe that into some positive affirmation, giving choices when we have an option or an opportunity to give choices. And I like to give this disclaimer. I am not a passive parent. I believe that children need to be obedient every single time.
Absolutely.
Kids need to do what grown-ups say, because a safe grown-up, because they're learning, right? They don't have the brain capacity, the maturity to make decisions for themselves. So this is not about passive parenting or gentle parenting. It's not a parenting style. It's just a parenting technique, right? It's just a tool.
Sure.
And so I just think that we are groomed to think we need to correct, correct, correct. And sometimes we just need to have a conversation.
You had a pyramid up at the brunch. And let's talk about the pyramid, the correction pyramid, because
Absolutely.
that was amazing.
So one of the things that we teach at Gracewood, is based on the work of Dr. Karen Purvis from Texas Christian University, and she teaches this TBRI, trust-based relational interventions. And one of the things that she teaches is this triangle, and at the base of the triangle is correction. And the base of the triangle is the biggest section of the triangle. That's where most parents spend most of their time. The middle of the triangle is empowering. So that's me teaching, right? I'm showing you, I'm giving you the tools, I'm making sure you have what you need. And the very tip top is connecting. We feel like connection is less important because I got to get you ready for the world. I got to get you
Right.
through school. I got to
Right.
get you prepared to be a productive adult. And so we spend a little bit of time connecting and thinking that most of our time needs to be spent correcting and
Mm.
teaching. So, what Dr. Purvis teaches is to flip the triangle, to spend the majority of our time connecting with our kids, same amount of time teaching and empowering, and then
Yes.
the least amount of time correcting.
Yes. So as a single parent, I and again, because on this podcast we talk all things lifestyle, career, and single parenting.
Hmm.
And this podcast in this season is more about the single parenting aspect of six figure single mom. So when we talk about correction and connection, as a single parent, you can feel like because your child is with you all the time that you are connecting.
Hmm.
I have been guilty of this so much to where sometimes when my daughter would say certain things, I'm like, you're with me every day. Like, what is the problem? And with me every day is in the same house,
Hmm.
but I'm doing a million and one things. I'm washing clothes, I'm cooking dinner, I'm cleaning up, I'm in my
Yeah.
office, I'm working, I'm this, 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 this. And so it's like, we can think that we are connecting with our kids and we are missing the mark. We
Absolutely.
are missing the mark. So my daughter and I have been thick as thieves. We've been close, but in her teenage years, I'm realizing that as more of the outside influences
Hmm.
come in, that connection has to really, really, really tighten up. So, what are some ways that you think you can connect with your kids?
Absolutely. I think a lot of listening. Sometimes as parents, we do a lot of talking, a lot of teaching, a lot of correcting.
Yeah.
But I think we need to just make space to listen and to be really active. I mean, the first thing is just be curious and be genuinely curious, not just the flippant, how was your day? Do you have homework? Because I mean, sometimes we can go through that checklist pretty quick.
You know what? The other day I asked my daughter, she got in the car. I picked her from school and I said, um, how was your day? And then I said, did you get all your homework done? Why did I ask this?
Right.
I mean, she immediately was like, Mom, I had so much work to do, and I've been trying to do all this work before Thanksgiving, and grades are due on Friday, and da da. Da." And I'm just sitting there like, I'm just sad that I even asked.
Right.
At this point, I'm just like, I don't know what to ask, what not to ask.
Uh-huh.
But like you said, she just it's the whole, like you say, you gotta be in tune with your kids, what their stressors are,
Hmm.
and stop going through the checklist. Like, I didn't even notice that she was so stressed out about school.
Right.
And so
Absolutely.
that was a moment that where I said, okay, well, I just won't say anything. And when you're ready to talk, then we
Hmm.
can talk. And
Right.
after a while, she kind of loosened up. But I was just like,
Right. Or even just naming what's in the air. I can hear that you're very stressed out about these last couple weeks before Thanksgiving break. Do you want to talk more about that? Like just naming it instead of like, why is this making you so emotional? Like, why are you so upset about this? I'm just going to say what I see. I
yeah,
see that you are very upset.
yeah.
Let's talk about it. Or how can I help you? Do you need anything from me? That's another question that I've learned. My son, again, is only 10, but especially with teenagers, that's a really good question to ask because
Mm.
it is, I'm here if you need me, but also you're old enough that if you want to sort through this on your own, I can give you the space that you need. So,
Mm.
what do you need from me?
Can
Do
I
you
get that
need
space?
anything from me? And then learn to give the space. That's the hard part,
I
right?
know it's so hard, but
Yeah,
our kids are growing up,
they
and
are.
like you said, that's a good question to ask. Do you need anything from me? I've
Mhm.
asked that a few times, but recently I have not asked that in a long time. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that I need to improve, asking her every day because I'm telling you, when the other day when that happened, I was just like,
Right.
and then the human side of Crystal was like, What she got to be so mad about? What does she
Mhm.
got to be so upset about? You don't pay no bills. You don't got the same. You don't have. But then after taking some time, and luckily I was pulling up to the cleaners.
Right.
So once I pulled up to the cleaners after I picked her up and kind of got inside, and she kind of settled down, I kind of settled down, and it was like, you know what, Crystal, her stressors are not the same as yours, but it doesn't minimize how they make her feel.
Right.
So in this moment, just back off. And later on, she came to me and we actually did an activity together. So that's one
Good.
thing that my therapist has recommended is doing things together that both of you guys actually like to do. So my
Right.
daughter right now is really trying to change some of her habits as it pertains to eating and
Mhm.
exercise and things like that. And because she's doing the whole mind, body, and soul betterment right now. And so we do like a little working out together. And
Good.
so when we did that, she says, Mom, can you take me to smoothie? Can you get a smoothie? And I said, okay, yeah, sure. Because I'm happy that you're asking to
Right.
get a smoothie instead of like McDonald's or Jack in the Box, Burger King, or whatever. And so it's just the little things, like you said, to connect with them.
Mhm.
We have to, as parents, have to be intentional about those things. And as single moms or single dads, because there's single dads that listen to my podcast as well, stop thinking that just because they're with us in the house that we are connecting with them.
That's absolutely right. And I love that you were willing, even after a long day, to, yes, I will take you to Smoothie King. Because I think sometimes in those moments, we do. It's like, I've been at work all day.
Mhm.
I do not feel like getting back in the car, going somewhere else. But I always frame it like this: if my boss came in at the end of the day and said, hey, I need you to do one more thing,
Mhm.
most likely I'm going to figure out
Absolutely.
how to find the capacity to do that.
Mhm.
And so I kind of have just made a promise to myself that I would never do more for my job or my church or whatever than I do for my son.
Right.
Because I really believe that's my first ministry. If you are a believer like
Yeah.
I am, I
Yeah.
mean, my first responsibility is to him. And so I love that you were like, yes, I will go get you a smoothie.
Yeah, and another, I had initial feelings like that, like, oh my gosh, I've been at work all day, I'm tired. We
Mhm.
worked out, and things like that, and I've been very fatigued. Around this time of year, I get very, very, very fatigued very easily. But I said, you know what? Like you said, my job asked me to do something, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Even if they come to me at 4:45, 5 o'clock,
Exactly.
I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna log off. I'm gonna do it. So we have to keep, like they say, keep that same energy when it
Exactly.
comes to your family and your kids.
Absolutely.
And so that's another thing. Another thing that I want to say about connecting with your kids is one thing that I noticed in therapy
Mhm.
is that, and through comments that my daughter have made at times, is that she has really fit in with a lot of the stuff that I was doing and not vice versa.
Mm.
So let me give you an example. As a woman in business and a woman that's already always had a job,
Mhm.
she's always kind of fit into a lot of things that I was doing,
Mhm.
and nonprofit stuff and,
Right.
things at my church and stuff like that. So it's I have done things. We've eaten lunch together since she was very, very, very little. I've always dropped my daughter off at school every day. That kind of thing. Been to every program, every function that she's had for school, every award thing. But as it pertains to fun things and after school things and, things outside of school or
Mhm.
something like that, we've taken vacations and things like that. But I've just realized that a lot of times that I thought we were spending time together and that it was like her time,
Uh-huh.
she considers it still my time
Mhm.
because they were things that I had to get done and
Right.
not things specifically for her.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about, that and you making your kids come with you and you're like, well, we've done things, we've done it, but it's not intentionally been things for them.
Absolutely. Okay, so I love talking about this because I think that specifically single moms, especially hardworking single moms,
Mhm.
this is the Six Figure Single Mom podcast. So we're
Absolutely.
talking to women who are working, grinding, trying to figure it out, right? Sometimes I'm going to go back to this checklist. We have this checklist and we're really good at like scheduling and getting stuff on the calendar and making sure we don't miss a beat.
Mhm.
And so what I found in my own life is sometimes a lot of the I am going to pick you up and drop you off because it's not your fault that I'm a single parent and you
Yes.
don't have to ride the bus.
Yes.
And I am going to eat lunch with you at least so many times this month
Yes.
because it's not your fault. And I am going to be there to eat lunch with you.
Yes.
And all those things are really to make us feel like we're not missing the mark and less about what does my child really need from me.
Yes.
And so I think it goes back to that, just getting curious, like what's meaningful to them.
Mhm.
What, because for Malachi, he would probably rather me sit down and play Legos, which does not appeal to me at all. Like he would rather me
Yes.
spend 20 minutes building something with Legos probably than even coming to the school. But going to the school for lunch feels like I have checked the box. And
Mhm.
so just making sure that, like you said, the things that we're doing are meaningful to them and not just honestly helping us deal with our own
God,
stuff.
that's so good. That's so good. That's so good because, like you said, we can sometimes feel like, well, we're doing this, it's for them, and so
Uh-huh.
that they feel important, and so that they, and it's like, no, that really was for you. Like, that was
Exactly.
for you to say that you feel like this and you feel like that.
Right.
When I started going on, my daughter and I would cruise every year.
Mm-hmm.
And people would always message me and say, "Oh, I love how you still make time to travel with your daughter and still make time to do this and still
Uh-huh.
make time to do that." But on those trips, we were doing a lot of independent things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a lot of her in the pool and me reading a book by
Right.
the pool, or, her going to the kids center and me kind of just
Mm-hmm.
hanging out or by myself or doing whatever it is around the ship, entertainment wise,
Uh-huh.
going to shows and things like that. And, sometimes when I think back on those things, I think, how much time were we really spending together? We would do dinner together and things
Right.
like that, but
Right.
it's like when you look back over your life, you're like, man, how much time did I really spend? Because, like you said, as high performing single women, we are in very high demand at
Mm-hmm.
all times. So
Absolutely.
the time that you spend with your kids is minimal. And if you're not intentional, you will miss the mark. You will
Absolutely.
definitely miss the mark. So, I feel like, what are some ways that you feel like improving communication can help your children in the long run? Do you guys get into like the life of the child and how improving communication can help them long term?
Absolutely. I think the better communicator you are, the better your child is going to be at
Yeah.
communicating. I
Yeah.
mean, the reality is we parent the way we parent because of the way our parents parented us.
Yes. Yes.
And so that will continue with our children. If you communicate well, they will communicate well.
Yes.
And so I think that it empowers them to be able to say what they need
Hmm.
in a respectful way. And that's going to serve them well in every arena of life, at school, at work.
Yes.
That I also think that it opens up this door that they can come and talk to you. One thing that we say at Gracewood is rules without relationship fosters rebellion.
Mm.
I'll say that one more time. Rules without
Mhm.
relationship fosters rebellion. And so sometimes we wonder why our teens, like, all I ask you to do was clean the room. Well, it's because that's all you've asked me in the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks is why didn't you? Why haven't you?
Yeah.
You haven't connected with me.
Mhm.
And so, no, I don't want to follow your rules
Yeah.
because I don't feel like I have relationship with you right now.
Yes.
And so I think that it helps them just be able to communicate better with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important because sometimes I do think about that as a parent. Like, once my daughter graduates, what is the trajectory of her life? If she doesn't know how
Mhm.
to effectively communicate, then what does that do to her? I was listening to her yesterday because she had a meeting. We'll just
Mhm.
say that she had a meeting with someone, and she says, "Mom, do you feel weird like when people look you in your eyes?" And I said, "No, baby." And she said, it gives me a lot of anxiety when people look
Mm.
me directly in my eyes. And I was thinking to myself, you just got to get more confident.
Right.
In that case, we need to work on a little bit more confidence.
Mhm.
My daughter is shy, but has a big personality. But
Mhm.
sometimes I think the big personality is to compensate for other things. So
Mhm.
sometimes, you can think she has a big personality, but she's really introvert like me. She
Uh-huh.
really, if she's around a lot of people, she's one of those people that her heart will start beating fast and she'll
Uh-huh.
get extremely anxious. So I was just thinking to myself, looking someone in their eyes a nonverbal communication skill that
Absolutely.
she needs in order to get a job, in
Hmm.
order to effectively communicate business,
Right.
in order to effectively communicate with a potential spouse or potential
Hmm.
friends, things like that. So I was just like, we got to work on a little bit more confidence as it pertains to
Absolutely.
communication.
And I think eye contact just says, I mean what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
if I can say what I need to say without diverting my eyes. And so
Yes.
that's important with our kids too. When I'm
Hmm.
saying I love you, I'm looking you right in your eyes.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
that's another tool that we talk about is verbal expressions of love. Like, some of us grew up not hearing I love you a lot. Like, we assume our kids know that we love them, but like, we just have to get comfortable saying it. Like,
Yes.
we have to say it often. We have to say it making eye contact. Physical touch is another one.
Yes.
Some of us grew up not getting a whole lot of hugs, not getting a
Mhm.
lot of affection, especially boys. There's a healthy balance, don't get me wrong, but we got to be willing to like hug on our kids. Like, they need that physical touch to develop. And so I think those are just ways that we can kind of reteach ourselves, and that builds that confidence in our kids.
Yeah, yeah. Physical touch is a good one. I think it's important. Me and my daughter, we hug all the time and things like that. Sometimes if we're sitting on the couch, we watch a movie together and things like that. And like I said, now she's trying to transform her body. So
Uh-huh.
now she's doing a little working out. But I think that the physical touch piece is important for them because like I tell my daughter all the time, although I am a single woman,
Hmm.
I am hopeful that
Right.
God has
Absolutely.
someone out there for me. And so I just try to teach her that everybody needs somebody,
Hmm.
because I think as single parents too, we can kind of give off, when we've been a single parent for so long,
Right.
we can kind of give off that we don't need anybody
Hmm.
because they see us grinding, they see us doing, doing, doing. So
Right.
I always try to encourage that too, like, everybody needs somebody. So I try to do, like you said, the communicating piece, but also the physical touch, so that she knows that I love her,
Absolutely.
that I genuinely love her.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I tell people, or the moms at Gracewood, like, it's that I love you enough to get up and go to work every day, but I also love you enough to sit here and do Legos with you. Or like, because
Yes.
we think that we're doing this big grandiose, like we're hitting all the big boxes,
Hmm.
but it's the little ones that we can miss because I'm trying to think about how I'm going to pay for college. You gonna want
Right.
a car at some
Right.
point. Like, I'm
Right.
thinking about all the big stuff,
Right.
but it's the what do you need from me today? Like, what do
Right.
you need from me in this moment?
Right.
And how can I meet that need?
Those are very important questions to ask your kids. I think that once your kids are in their growing phases
Mhm.
too, I think it kind of softens their heart and they're always giving you grace. When
Absolutely.
you are in your moments that are difficult, I feel like that kind of allows your kids to have some compassion for you,
Mhm.
because I know at one point when my daughter first turned 16, she did not have any compassion at all. Like, she just felt like, well, it is what it is. You do what you want, and this and that.
Mhm.
And I tell my friends, I was not ready for 16.
Really?
But
I'm not there yet. So.
but but it's been a journey because it's been like a big mirror.
Mhm.
It's been like a big mirror to myself where I'm like, I'm very solution oriented.
Right.
And I like making sure that, I operate in excellence in every area of my life. And
Mhm.
parenting is no different.
Right.
So I take it extremely serious. I think to a normal person, it would be like, oh my gosh, this means I'm not meeting the mark. This means, because give that example that you gave about communicating to your kids about waking up in the morning. When you said that one, I love those aha moments for
Uh-huh.
me because it forces me to look in the mirror to say, Crystal, you got some improvement to do. And
Right.
every day as a parent, it's my job to think that I just want to get better and better.
Absolutely. So I think we were talking about how we just have to give our kids more grace. We give ourselves grace. And so the example that I use is that in the mornings, when it's time to get up, we hit snooze 10 times
Hmm.
before we get ourselves up out of the bed. But then the moment our feet finally hit the floor, we just go crazy.
Mm.
Get up. We're running late. We got to get out the door. Why aren't you up? Have you done this? Have you brushed your teeth? And I caught myself doing that and said to myself, now you finally rolled out of bed and you have the nerve
That part.
to get up,
That
like
part.
going off on everybody.
Yes.
Like, we have to give them the same grace. And so, does that mean that like they can take all day in the mornings? No, but it does mean we can be gentle. We
Yes.
can say, okay, look, it's time to get up, or like, I'm gonna let us hit snooze one more time and
Yes.
then I'm gonna go in there.
Yes.
Like, just,
I like another example that you used, and this was us a lot when we were growing up about riding in the car.
oh yeah.
So can you share what you were saying about them us riding in the car?
Absolutely. So, we are talking about power dynamics,
Mhm.
and there is a natural power dynamic that exists between parent and child, just like teacher and student, manager to employee. You're in charge. Everybody knows you're the mom. You are running the show.
Yes.
And sometimes we, for whatever reason, feel the need to reinforce that power and authority all the time.
Mhm.
And so our kids ask us simple questions, and it's why? Stay in a child's place, mind your business, like all the things that we grew up hearing. Because I
Mhm.
mean, most of us grew up in an era where children were seen and not heard. Asking any question was considered a form of disrespect. And
Mhm.
so, the example about riding in a car is a simple, where are we going? Why? Just ride. Just stay in the back seat. Just wait and see. Why can't we just say we're going to Kroger? Like,
I'm so guilty of that. I don't know. I don't even know what to do.
and we don't know why we do it.
We don't know
just
why
do
we
it.
do. We grew up hearing it so much that
Mhm.
we actually think it's right
Absolutely.
not to tell our kids where they're going. And like you said, if you were to get in a car with your friend and you were to ask your friend, "Hey, where are we going?" and they were like, "Just ride," you would be like, "Oh no, let me out.
Right.
Let me out of here. I could drive my own car,
Right.
and we could meet up where we say we're going to meet."
Right.
But it is one of those things where, like you said, what's the harm in telling your child where you're going?
Right.
Even if you are running errands and they're curious, well, what are the errands?
Mhm.
Then go into details. I ever since I've came to that the conference and heard you speak about that, I stopped doing that. So now when I
Good.
get in the car, my daughter says, "Mom, where we going?" I'll catch myself. I'll say, "Just ride," and then I'll say, "Well, you know what? Actually, we're going such and
Right.
such," because I heard it growing up. So
Mhm.
it's unlearning. I feel like parenting also is unlearning a lot of things that you learn. Not to say your parents, like you, what
Yeah.
you say, not to say your parents were bad at what they said or
Mhm.
did or taught or whatever, but it just gives you that understanding, the level of connection that you want with your kids.
Absolutely. I think 90% of parenting is unlearning. And again, our parents were doing the best they could with the resources that they had. Like,
Mhm.
they parent the way they parented because of how they were parented.
Absolutely.
And so if you get into all the trauma and all that, it's the long history of how we got here.
Mhm.
But the reality is, we do things we don't even realize why. And there are times when we need to withhold information from kids. I am not saying you need to tell your kids all your business,
Right, right.
but where are we going? That's a simple one. It's an easy yes. And so sometimes we need to look for opportunities to say yes. Because naturally, as parents, as teachers of our children, we're having to say, not right now, not today.
Mhm.
And so when we find an opportunity to just give an easy answer or an easy yes, we should take advantage of those.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's amazing. That those two things. Well, your whole presentation helped me as a
Thank
parent,
you.
and like I said, my daughter and I, we were already in this transitional phase, also
Mhm.
anyway.
Right.
So it just kind of helped me, like you say, put a few more tools in my tool belt, so
Absolutely.
that I can become that better parent that I want to be.
Yeah,
So
it's important. And our kids will be better off because of it. And we won't always get it right. There are still times, even with all this training that I've had, that Malachi will ask me where we're going. And I will say, just ride. And then I have to catch myself and
right,
try to get it right the next time.
right.
So it's a growing journey.
Right, right.
For sure.
No, I absolutely love this conversation, Vi. I definitely wanted to have you to come by to talk about communicating and improving effective communication with your children, because there are a lot of times that we think we're making the mark, and we're actually missing the
Mhm.
mark. A lot of things that you say in your presentation hit home with me, so I know it would hit home with my audience. So, can you tell them where to? Can you give them the information on Gracewood if they would like to be considered as a resident?
Absolutely. So it's gracewood.org is the website. If you go to the website, there's an admissions application. There's ways to get involved as far as volunteering, donating. All the information is on the website. My contact information is on the website. So that's probably the best avenue.
Absolutely. Is there a waiting list? Because you know they're gonna be asking.
Yes.
So, is there a waiting list to get in? And if so, how long typically is the waiting list?
So right now we are not moving in new residents for the rest of the year. We're full. We anticipate that we'll start taking applications again in February, or
Awesome.
we'll start moving people in February.
Awesome, awesome. So then you guys know where to find Vi. If you are interested in Gracewood, please fill out the admissions application. Like she said, they're not accepting anymore for the rest of the year. However, in the upcoming year, they are opening applications for consideration. Vi, I want to thank you again for stopping by. This conversation about communication, I'm sure, will continue. And I just love what you're doing with the ladies there at Gracewood, and also in your parenting. A lot of you may not know, and Vi shared with us at the brunch. Vi, her son was diagnosed deaf
Mhm.
when he was born, and then what did he have to where now he can actually hear?
So he was born deaf. He had received cochlear implants at age 18 months old. We started speech therapy when he was 3 months old. I
Wow.
mean, it's been a journey, but he is now fully verbal. He's in a mainstream, typical fourth grade class, doing well, just
Awesome.
got elected to student council. So
Awesome.
it's been a journey of learning to communicate and helping him communicate for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's great. So you guys know that you are in good hands whenever you are talking to Vi. She knows all things about communication. And like you said, this has strengthened communication as it pertains to your son. So you are
Absolutely.
helping and blessing so many other single moms that are out there. Well, listen, this has been a great episode of the Six Figure Single Mom podcast. As always, if you guys know, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, and also comment down below if you guys have any questions about communication. Let's get into the conversation about communicating with our kids. What are some effective ways that you guys communicate with your children? Also, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at the6figuresinglemom.com. And if you want to email me, my email address is sixfiguresinglemoms with an S at gmail.com. I want to thank you for tuning in today. And as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.